We're going to start this morning with a little video. We have been using The Mandalorian as our theme, not because I'm preaching on the gospel according to The Mandalorian, I'm not, or even the gospel according to George Lucas. Star Wars stories, like the Psalms, however, consistently reflect the challenges that we humans experience, the battles between good and evil, and more importantly, the battle in the human soul to even recognize whether we are on the side of good or evil. And today, we're going to consider how we find comfort along the way. Now, those of you who are watching right now on Facebook, we are licensed for this clip. We have a license, but it is a Disney clip, and Facebook doesn't always know we have a license. So if you're watching us on Facebook and you get popped off, we will try and restart your stream. If you are on our website at ffumc.net, you won't have any trouble. And we will be migrating everything toward that shortly after Easter. If you are watching this live streaming on YouTube, you won't have any trouble. So those of you who are on Facebook, we want to encourage you to also let us know you're there. But if you get popped off, be patient or go to ffumc.net. Okay, let's have the video. It's a little dark, so listen carefully.
You get the wire out. The red wire. No, the red one. Show me the red wire. The red one. Yes, good. Now, you're going to plug that red wire where the blue wire goes in the board. Put the red wire where the blue wire goes in the board, okay? But don't let them touch. See where you took the blue one off? Yes. Now put the red one. No, don't put the blue one back. Put the red one where the blue one was, and put the blue one where the red one was. But be careful. They're oppositely charged, so keep them away from each other. Make sure you hold them apart from... No, hold them apart. Are you okay?
So some days are better than others, right? And if you're in the kind of trouble that a baby green creature with strange powers can't help you, then where are you going to get help from? Where are you going to get help? I look up to the mountains. This is Eugene Peterson's translation called The Message. I love it because it's always so vigorous and it helps the Bible really come alive. I look up to the mountains. Does my strength come from mountains? No. My strength comes from God who made heaven and earth and mountains. God won't let you stumble. Your guardian God won't fall asleep, not on your life. Israel's guardian will never doze or sleep. God's your guardian, right at your side to protect you, shielding you from sunstroke and sheltering you from moonstroke. God guards you from every evil. God guards your very life. God guards you when you leave and when you return. God guards you now. God guards you always. This well-known psalm conjures up the image of beautiful mountains where God lives. And it suggests that when we are feeling distant from God or troubled in our souls, that looking up to the hills will make us feel better. That's the traditional way we tend to hear that. But that is not actually a correct interpretation. I like the sentiment. I really do. When you are troubled, then getting out in nature can help you. The problem is, that's a platitude. And the Psalms and our Bible are hardly ever about platitudes. And when we think of this psalm as, well, if you're in trouble, then you look to the hills, which reminds you of God with all its power and beauty, and you'll be okay. But that's not actually what's happening. when we are in a struggling season, when our heart goes dark, or our mind is shrouded, or we feel lost. Beauty in the world helps, but it's not quite enough. There's a deeper truth here. Because this is the way of the human spirit, and there's a gentle, loving presence that walks through it with us. Comfort comes from the presence of the sacred in the midst of our life, not in removing difficulty from it. Comfort comes from the presence of the sacred in the midst of our life, not in removing difficulty from it. Consider this interpretation from an Old Testament scholar. I look up to the hills around me. On every hill in Jerusalem, surrounding Jerusalem are hills, and on every hill is either an idol to whom some pagan god is worshipped, or there's a fortress from an invading and occupying army. Is my help going to come from there? No, it certainly won't. Idols and statues and militaries are not the source of my strength. God is. So where does your help come from? Where do you connect? Wendell Berry writes this beautiful thing. When we no longer know what to do, we have come to our real work. This should comfort those of us who have passed our 60th birthdays and still are waiting to see how long it's going to take us to figure out life. When we no longer know which way to go, we have begun our real journey. The mind that is not baffled is not employed. The mind that is not baffled is not employed. The impeded spring is the one that sings. The impeded stream is the one that sings. Faith is supposed to bring us to great aliveness. And when we encounter comfort in a season of spiritual struggle, we find ourselves feeling great aliveness. When we have comfort in the midst of struggle, not comfort as a relief from struggle, then we are fully alive. The mystics talk about desolations and consolations. Desolation and consolation, it's very much the language of St. John of the Cross, who is famous for the phrase, the dark night of the soul. And he doesn't mean everyday human trials and troubles, although those can trouble you. And it doesn't mean a hard season, and it doesn't mean clinical depression. It's what happens in your heart and soul when you feel lost and disconnected from God for no good reason that you can explain. It can feel as if the world is against you, or you can be perfectly aware that the world is not against you. There's nothing wrong with your life, but God seems absent anyway. You're not suffering trials and tribulations. You're just in a season of spiritual emptiness, which is a trial and a tribulation. And consolation is when we are gifted with something we can't describe, something we can't make happen, something we can't explain, but which brings us comfort in a season of desolation. It doesn't remove the desolation, it doesn't balance out the desolation, it simply makes us able to sit and live in or walk through a troubling, difficult time in our lives. Consolation is the comfort that comes from the Holy Spirit. It's not a magical act that makes everything terrible disappear and then we feel okay. It's the capacity to live all of life fully. The Mandalorian has a way, and part of what we are watching him do is the same spiritual work we have. which is remembering our seasons of comfort and identifying places of comfort when we are struggling or in a dark place. His stories have temptations and obstacles and distractions and unexpected graces and successes, and he is true to his way, and the dramatic arc shows us that he is reconsidering some of his creed. He is finding his way from what he thought was set in stone and isn't enough to face what he's living now. Some parts of his way may have been wrong, and they're certainly not up to the complicated task that has shown up for him. By the conclusion of the first season, we see that our protagonist is shaken by the depths of the depravity to which his profession has brought him. He's a bounty hunter. And bounty hunters in this universe are amoral, they are supreme killers, and they just do their job. And their moral code is if they accept a job, they do it. You know that we're not in the realm of Christian gospel when the way of the Mandalorian says, weapons are part of my religion. His conscience and his own personal history, though, are starting to make him recoil from some of the evil that he is presented with. This little green creature is a child. Originally, it was referred to as an asset. And then you hear the language change to the child. And he is finding himself no longer able to deliver an asset to someone who is evil. And we see him plunged into suffering, very much of a soul-searching sort. The suffering of the violence and pain that you see, it is, after all, an action movie and a space opera, so there's lots of fighting with monsters and people get killed willy-nilly. It's really kind of not for children. That doesn't seem to trouble him. He expects that. It's the unsettling of his conscience, the loosening up of something in his soul that had been locked away. And now he is having way more conflict inside him than outside him, which is a testament, frankly, to Pedro Pascal's acting, that behind a mask and behind a full-body costume, he can convey the conflict that is happening inside him when the screen is full of all kinds of special effects about the conflict happening outside him. But winning a battle doesn't settle his soul. Winning a battle, and each season, each episode, he wins some kind of a battle, doesn't settle his soul. And he finds himself taking comfort in a place he never had before. He takes comfort in this child. He takes comfort in a relationship, and he takes comfort in his own capacity for kindness. He takes comfort in a relationship with a helpless child and his own capacity for kindness. So I want you to just pause for a moment. Close your eyes, if you will. If that makes you uncomfortable, don't do it. And just consider this, and I'm going to give you just a few seconds each time. When you have felt lost, what helped you find yourself? When you have felt like a lost soul, what helped you find yourself? And if you don't have an answer in your mind, just let that question settle in, where in the back of your mind, your conscience will be working on that in the days to come. What has helped you put yourself someplace God can find you? What has helped you put yourself someplace God can find you? Is there a person or a relationship that steadies you while you wait for a shift away from the desolation? Someone whose presence helps you sit and wait for the consolation? Is there a practice that helps sustain and comfort you when you are going through a hard season? Comfort isn't something that comes to us like medicine for our hurts. It's something that comes up from within us when we are practicing a spiritual path. Comfort is not something that comes from the outside, although there are comforting things outside. It's not medicine. It's something that comes up from within us when we are practicing a spiritual path. I ran across this quote today, and this week, and it really spoke to me. Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break, and all things can be mended, but not with time, as they say, but with intention. So go love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you. A broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you.